I've said numerous times in the past that appeasing gun controllers don't work. As gun controllers pass more and more laws, the respect for the fewer and fewer law-abiding gun owners they have out there gets even worse. And the case I'm going to discuss here is another thing that illustrates this point exactly. So a few weeks ago, a Harvard grad student by the name of Layla Purney, who was a roommate of a few people in Massachusetts, went out of town, and while she was out of town, one of her roommates found a Make America Great Again hat. And from that, they presumed she was a gun owner, and they immediately went through all of her personal stuff, searched her room and everything like that, and finally found some of her firearms. After Leela got back, her roommates asked her if she had any firearms, which she ultimately said yes, and said she'd been in an abusive relationship prior, and that's why she had the firearms. The police were called. The police verified that all the firearms she had were legit. She was a law-abiding firearm owner. You would think this would be the end of it for her roommates. I mean, after all, they did go through her stuff when she was out of town. They called the police on her. The police did, in fact, confirm those firearms were lawfully held in Massachusetts, nonetheless. I mean, I know Massachusetts ain't as bad for their gun laws as, say, New York and California are, but their gun laws are still pretty restrictive. So you'd think after all that, they'd be like, okay, well, we understand your position, especially after Leela said, hey, she was in an abusive relationship beforehand, and she wanted those firearms for personal protection to protect her life. But no, that wasn't good enough for the roommates. Her roommates wanted her gone immediately, and they went to the landlord to try to get her evicted. A statement to the landlord by one of Layla's roommates says, I quote, "We discussed with Layla that all of us are uncomfortable with having firearms in the house and that their presence causes anxiety and deprives us of the quiet enjoyment of the premises, which we are entitled to." But I guess according to that very same roommate, going through other people's stuff without their consent is perfectly okay. So let's discuss the accuracy of this statement here. Layla is a law-abiding gun owner in Massachusetts, nonetheless, a state where you have to jump through a lot more hoops than most states in the U.S. to become a law-abiding firearm owner. She obviously hadn't done anything to cause problems with her firearms. You know, this is true given the fact that her roommates didn't even know she had them until they decided to infringe on her by going through her stuff without her permission while she was out of town. So it is obvious that Layla has pretty much kept her firearm ownership to herself. So as you can tell, Layla went out of her way to respect the bounds of her roommates, and it seems that respect was very much so one-sided. But with the type of people her roommates are, it looks like her roommates are the type of people who it's okay for them to go out and go through your stuff, not have any respect for you, and then afterwards they're going to demand that you bend over backwards for them. And this is the type of person you're dealing with your average gun controller. Furthermore, Layla has requested to at least stay there until she's done with the finals and then find another place to stay. This is a pretty reasonable request, but her roommates can't even bend on that. The thing with compromising with a gun controller is that it means you make all the concessions and they don't bend an ounce. Furthermore, I'm willing to bet that most, if not all, of Layla's roommates probably would love nothing more than to see a federal ban on rifles such as the AR-15. They want to go into other people's homes and dictate what they can and can't have too. They want to control other people. And all of this based on their anxiety. Their irrational anxiety at that. Which makes it paranoia. And by making concessions on gun laws, you only feed into that very same anxiety and paranoia. And this in turn translates into calls for more gun laws. And the cycle continues. All the firearm laws on the books, all the hoops you had to jump through to become a law-abiding firearm owner, the fact that you're not allowed to own as much as you used to, none of that matters to them. And in essence, every time you concede and you let them get another gun law through, all you're really doing is just surrendering freedom for nothing, really. So to make a long story short, you're not going to appease the gun controller crowd. The best option for preserving your legal ability to keep and carry firearms is going to be to stand up for your Second Amendment rights. And there are a lot of ways to do this. One such way is to join an organization like Gun Owners of America. Another such way is if you know another firearm owner who's not really active themselves in defending their Second Amendment rights, you might want to ask them to consider joining the fight, so to speak. Well, thank you guys for listening. Y'all take her easy now. Have a great day.